Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I'm going to get started in a couple of minutes. I want to give people time to tune in before I start. But before I get into the substance, what I'll do is just make a couple of brief announcements. I plan to do a couple of other hangouts on this channel. One will probably be right after this, and then later on this evening, I'll do some follow-up hangouts. I also plan to do a hangout on my I Declare War channel, so you all look out for that. If you're not subscribed to my I Declare War channel, I encourage you to do so. You should see it on my main page under my featured channels. You can click that and subscribe to that. I plan to do a video about this Black Republican who is defending Confederate statues, so look out for that video. Also, I plan to do a video on my second New Possibilities channel, and that video will be about a pioneer, one of the hidden figures who helped develop the GPS system. So you all look out for that video as well. If you're not subscribed to my second New Possibilities channel, I encourage you to do so. I will have a link to that channel in the description box when I get a chance to. Also, it's listed as one of the featured videos on this channel, New Possibilities. So I encourage you to subscribe to my second New Possibilities channel and to my I Declare War channel. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off by sharing my screen. There's this article from the Washington Post, and I want to discuss that article. I'm going to read some excerpts from that article, and then I'm going to provide my commentary. And I'm sure by now a lot of you have heard about this story where you had this Chinese student poison a Black student over a long period of time. So I'm going to share my screen and then we can get right into it. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, so you have this article from the Washington Post. This article will be in the description box to my video, so you can read the article for yourself. But I'm going to read some excerpts about this, from this article. I want to summarize certain sections of it, just so you can have the background information, and then I'm going to go into my commentary. So you had a situation where you had these two roommates. One is an Asian man by the name of Yukai Yang, and then you also have a Black man by the name of Juwan Royal. So they were roommates at Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And the Black roommate experienced sickness over a period of time. Like, he went through all these different issues. One point where his mouth was burning water, and he had some burning sensation as he was drinking the water. And then he vomited for like 45 minutes straight. And, he called the police at that particular time. And there have been other incidents. First we got to back up here a little bit. There was an incident involved vandalism in this particular where black space, and the television was damaged and all that kind of stuff. And on his desk was written in black marker, followed by "Get out of here." And he suspected that his roommate may be responsible for this. His roommate claims that he got there and he saw that all this stuff was damaged and all this and that, and he basically claimed that somebody else did it and he just happened to discover it. But this Black roommate, Mr. Royal, assumed that it was probably his roommate who was responsible for what happened. So this article points out how over a period of time, this Asian roommate poisoned his Black roommate. He gave him thallium over a period of time. And thallium, for those of you who are familiar with it, it's a poison that's used in rat poison. It's an ingredient used in rat poison. And, this Asian student has been arrested, and he's charged with poisoning this brother over a long period of time. He's been charged with attempted homicide, aggravated assault, simple assault, reckless endangerment. And the thing is, like, this substance, this thallium substance is tasteless, is odorless, but it's a very powerful poison. So if somebody puts this stuff in your food or something like that, you're not going to taste it. You're not going to smell it. So that's what makes it deadly. And this article points out how, this poison was used by Saddam Hussein's regime. It's been used in places like China and Russia against dissidents and stuff like that to poison people. This article also, goes into more detail about, particular incidents that occurred. Like, they cite this one incident again where Royal was drinking from a water bottle and he immediately felt a burning sensation in his mouth. He ran to the bathroom and tried to wash his mouth out because of the burning sensation. And then the thing is, his roommate mentioned the possibility of this being, there being poison that's odorless and colorless and all that stuff that dissolves in water, without like admitting that he's the one that did it. And then there was another incident, where Royal was at his computer and he began feeling dizzy and he passed out. And then, he contacted the police at that time. There was an incident where he was, again, throwing up for 45 minutes and he felt very shaky, and he called the police at that time. So eventually, this Asian roommate was arrested for poisoning his brother over a long period of time. And then, going back to that first incident where, like, he defaced his roommate's desk and all that stuff, he was charged at that time for ethnic intimidation, institutional vandalism, and criminal mischief. And those are all misdemeanors. Now, this article goes on to talk about thallium and its effect on the nervous system, how it can damage the lungs, the heart, the liver, and the kidneys if large amounts are ingested. And then it talks about like temporary effects of this, hair loss, vomiting, and diarrhea. And it says that death can occur if somebody's exposed to substantial amounts of it, significant amounts of thallium. Now, Yang was suspended from school following his arrest in the spring, involving that, the other incidents that we referred to before, and he's no longer enrolled in the school. Royal has graduated from the school. He graduated in the spring, but now, he still suffers, according to this article, the after effects of this thallium. So, now you have this Chinese guy, he's arrested, he's charged with the various crimes that I mentioned before. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the images, this is the Asian guy who was responsible for the poisoning. This is the African-American roommate who was poisoned. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. I'm going to see what you all are saying, and then I'm going to provide my commentary about this situation. Shout out to Hollow Ninja 10. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the Chinese and Africa, because I think in many ways this is a metaphor for that whole situation involving the Chinese and Africa. Shout out to Sandy Poo. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, so I saw this story and I had to talk about it. I noticed that a lot of people have been talking about it, but I think that it raises a whole bunch of questions about Black people and Chinese people. A lot of times people primarily think of racism as being something involving just white people against Black people or white people against other non-white people. But here you have a prime example of a Chinese man being racist towards a black man. You know, not only did he use racial slurs, but he deliberately poisoned this brother over a long period of time. And, you know, the thing about the articles that I read is that the black roommate had no suspicion. Like, he didn't think that his roommate was poisoning him. He didn't think that there was any kind of animosity at first. And then he saw, you know, this graffiti on his desk, this racist graffiti basically saying, "Nigga, get out of here." And then, you know, these repeated incidents where he's poisoned and stuff like that, where he has all these different symptoms. You know, again, at one point he passes out, he's dizzy and stuff like that. Another point, you know, he has pains in his lower extremities from his waist down to his feet. Then, you know, he has a situation where he has the burning sensation in his mouth, that a burning sensation that lasts for quite some time, for days after he was poisoned. So it's just a crazy situation where you had this guy being real sneaky, you know, dropping poison in his food, you know, planting poison all around the place to get back at his roommate, to cause sickness and illness. And, you know, so this is an obvious example of racism. You know, he's used the N-word, you know, he poisoned this brother over a long period of time. He could have killed this brother. And, you know, so this is just another example of Asians being racist towards black people. And we know that this is nothing new in our community. All we have to do is look at how many of these Asian businesses treat black people in our community. You know, unfortunately, we live in a society where black people don't really own and control the economics of our community. You know, we are dependent on outsiders to provide goods and services for us, you know, whether these are white businesses or Asian businesses or Arab businesses. You go to a black community and that's what you will see. You will see others dominating the economy of those communities. And when they dominate those economies, they are able to treat black people with disrespect. You know, you go into an Asian store and you're followed. They presume that you're a criminal, just like the police do, just like the white police do, and even some black police that are misguided. So they follow you around in these stores. We've seen the situation, for instance, where a sister was choked by some Asians. You know, she was accused of stealing some eyelashes, and you had this Asian guy choke this woman out, you know, throw her to the ground and proceed to choke her. Then you had another incident where this Asian guy punched a black woman in the face. You had that situation. And despite this disrespect that we continue to receive, we continue to give these people our money. We continue to prop up their businesses and give them the money that they need to send their kids to school, their kids to college, and for them, you know, to take all that money out of the black community and take it to their community so their community is prosperous while our community continues to economically suffer. So this is like a metaphor for this whole thing. You know, like this Asian roommate is like these Asian businesses in our community, you know, amongst us, you know, exploiting us. And then you look at the situation involving Africa, man. You know, Africa's relationship to these Chinese. It's just like the relationship between this black roommate and and this Asian roommate. It's just like that. This Asian roommate's relationship with this black roommate is just like the relationship between Africa and the Chinese. You know, they come in there seeming like they have good intentions and all that kind of stuff, seeming like they are trustworthy and stuff, when at the end of the day, they are about exploiting Africa just like the white colonists did before them. You know, they're taking up or picking up after where, you know, where the white colonialists left off, where the white imperialists left off. So now they are the new plunderers of Africa, exploiting Africa's resources in the name of, you know, providing some kind of aid or assistance to Africa. In the name of providing technology to Africa, they are exploiting Africa's resources. And, you know, they don't have any respect for black people. They're just completely exploiting Africa. And they show their disrespect. You know, for instance, when they had this celebration of the Chinese New Year, the way they celebrated their New Year was to bring out a Asian woman dressed in blackface, making complete mockery of African women and African people, black people. That's how they show their attitude towards black people. That's how they show their disrespect towards black people as they plunder Africa, their resources. And during that particular play, they were making mockery of Africans and talk while talking about their relationship with the Africans. You know, how they are plundering all this wealth. And the thing is, you know, despite this toxic type of relationship that African people on the continent and African people here have with, you know, some of these Chinese people, you still have these ignorant Black people that see it as a sign of progress that you have, you know, African women marrying these Chinese men. You know, no, that's a sign of a conquered people. You know, these people are taking over your land and they are taking your women. That is a form of oppression. And it's a damn shame that you have women that are willing to be with their oppressors over their own brothers. Um, so you look at that situation. And then back to the US. You know, affirmative action is under attack right now. And many Asians are participating in the attack on affirmative action. There's a lawsuit, from what I understand, against Harvard University, and you have Asian plaintiffs in that suit, you know, saying that affirmative action is racist. You know, affirmative action is a program that is designed to bring about more diversity at these universities that have a history of just being historically white universities, these elite universities that exclude Black people and stuff. You know, Black people just trying to get their foot in the door, trying to have an opportunity to get a higher education. And you have groups of Asians that are bringing suits against universities to end affirmative action as we know it. So, I mean, that's just another example. And, you know, my point is this, man. I don't think that, you know, all Asians are racist or anything like that. I just think that we need to be on guard. We have to be, you know, vigilant and stuff like that and be on point. Just like that roommate should have been on point, you know, in terms of his food. Like, you know, the first time I felt sick, I would, you know, the first thing I would do is like be suspicious that somebody is messing with my stuff, man. And it's just a hard situation because, like, on the college campus, it's hard to control who your roommate is and all that kind of stuff. Hard to secure your food, make sure nobody's tampering with it and stuff like that. And then, you know, the sad thing is, this isn't the first time something like this happened. You had a situation, as many people have mentioned, where you had a white woman roommate, you know, doing all kinds of despicable, disgusting things to her Black roommate on the low. So, I mean, you know, the bottom line is, man, we just have to be on point. It just makes me think about this immigration policy. As you all know, I'm not one of these people who oppose immigration. You know, I support immigration. But if somebody is racist, if they are, you know, if they have animosity towards our people, Black people, they don't need to be in this country. We have enough racism in this country. We don't need more racists here. We don't need people coming to America, taking advantage of opportunities that are only here because of our work as a people, because of our sacrifices, because of our civil rights movement. You know, these people have an opportunity to go to these universities. You know, they wouldn't have opened their doors to these Chinese or to these other groups of people if it wasn't for the civil rights movement that we fought, that we were a part of. These people wouldn't have these opportunities. And then they come here, and this is how they return the sacrifices that we made to make this country better. You know, they return the opportunities that we created for them by poisoning us. And I just think that that's a deep metaphor on so many levels, man. It's just like these people who are racist don't belong in this country. You know, that was my initial thought. But then again, as I think about it, this country has been racist from the beginning, man. Racism is as American as apple pie. And these races, sadly, they fit into this paradigm here in America. But I think that we need to challenge, you know, we need to speak out. If somebody is racist, they shouldn't be in this country. They should not be taking the advantages of our education opportunities and all that kind of stuff, opportunities that we help create as a people. So yeah, I mean, I just had to share my thoughts about this. And then, you know, back to the racism that some Asians have towards Black people. I mean, we could look at the example of what happened in New York, where you had this Asian police officer kill a Black man. And while you had some Asians that were protesting against police brutality, and supporting the call for justice, you had many in the Asian community who were supporting the Asian officer who killed that black man. So it's like we just really need to use this as a metaphor, man, in terms of trusting outsiders, period, man. We just have to be on point, man. We just have to be on point and put our interests first before any other interests. Yeah, so this is a despicable case. I mean, the sneaky nature of it, the snake-like nature of it, the devilish nature of what this guy was doing, like sneaking and putting poison in all this guy's food and stuff like that. It speaks to a sickness, man. It speaks to like the crafty nature of some of these people. And again, I think it's a metaphor for the crafty nature of the Chinese in Africa. It's a metaphor for the crafty nature of some of these business owners in the black community that are bloodsuckers of the black community, milking the black community of its resources and taking those resources out of the black community. But we can't be the ones to allow that stuff to happen. It's up to us to take control of our destiny, man. But let me see what you all are saying before I sign out. Again, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. I truly appreciate your support. Yeah, so William said blacks are stupid. You don't have to let white administrations pair you with any race in your dorm, thinking that everybody is your friend. I think that in terms of like your roommates and stuff like that, I know that there's very little control that people have over who's their roommate. So that's number one. But in terms of this whole trust issue, man, thinking everybody is your friend, I think there's some validity to that point. Like we can't operate under the assumption that just because somebody is a minority, that automatically that means that they're down with us and they support us. Because time and time again, that's not necessarily the case. And I'm not one of these people that rule out coalitions. As you all know, I've done videos talking about the need for coalitions, but those coalitions have to be based on mutual respect and mutual interest. And mutual interest is primary. That has to be the primary focus of any coalition with these other groups of people. But at the same time, I really think that we need to be vigilant. We should not just assume this because somebody is a so-called minority that they are in our corner or supportive of us. And I think that too often we are too trusting. We are too trusting, just like the Africans on the continent are trusting these Chinese to come in there. And at the end of the day, the Chinese are going to dominate the continent of Africa if things continue. Too trusting. Like I think that we would be better off if we take on the mentality, unfortunately, of that. Like I saw a case like a few weeks ago, there was a situation where you had this missionary go to this isolated native community and he was coming there to proselytize and this and that. And on site, those people took him out. They took him out. They killed him because they didn't want an invader coming to their community. They didn't want an outsider coming to their community. They have zero trust for outsiders. And because of that, they have maintained their culture. They have maintained their independence. And, our problem is we've been too trusting of people and stuff like that. We let anybody in. We let anybody be an honorary black person just because they can, use Negro slang and all that kind of stuff. We embrace them or whatever because they're a minority. We assume that they're down with us. And I think that we need to get over that kind of mentality, man. We need to have a more security conscious type of mentality, a more, black first type of mentality. But again, that doesn't mean that we can't work with others if we are vigilant and we are on point and we are on guard and stuff. But let's see what other people are saying. I'm just reading through your comments. Just bear with me a second. Yeah, that's a valid point. Big game. Shout out to you. Legacy is a factor at a lot of those Ivy League schools. Like, they do like to have students there who have parents who have gone there and grandparents, et cetera. And that may be a factor into why some Asians are not getting into those schools. And that could apply to African Americans as well. But I mean, you had a situation where some Asians are assuming that black people to get into these Ivy League schools or other types of public schools, public universities or whatever, and private universities. They assume that the black students are less qualified and they're only getting in there because of affirmative action and because of their race and stuff like that. And based on that assumption, they're bringing this particular lawsuit and stuff like that. Now, really, at the end of the day, I think that the larger white society is using these Asians to get rid of affirmative action. They're using them as a tool because they have been wanting to do this for a long time. And what better way to do that than to get another minority to claim that affirmative action is hurting them? So, I mean, there are plenty of Asians that that benefit from affirmative action. Affirmative action also does not guarantee somebody a slot in the school because of their race or whatever. Race is just one of many factors that are considered. Nobody is getting into Harvard just because they're black or into any other school just because they're black. Their race is just one of several factors considered by these universities. And, it's necessary because without affirmative action, many of these universities would be virtually all white with very few black people and other so-called minorities. And, black people would have less opportunity to get higher education without affirmative action. We've seen what happened where they got rid of affirmative action, and we've seen, the impact that that's had on black enrollment rates. So it's a very important issue. And, as we talk about this, it's another reminder of how important elections are. Donald Trump is against affirmative action. He's trying to use the Justice Department to attack affirmative action. So let's continue through your comments. Yeah, I mean, this whole issue of businesses, man, that's such an important issue because, like, when you look at these other communities, like, for instance, in Baltimore, on the outskirts of Baltimore, there's this predominantly Jewish community. When you go into that predominantly Jewish community, what you will see is Jewish businesses. You will see Jewish law firms. You will see Jewish restaurants. And even the non-Jewish businesses in that area, they have to provide kosher food and stuff like that. So you see the economic dominance that they have in their own community. When you go to other communities, like in Dearborn, Michigan, you will see a lot of Arab-owned businesses in that that Arab community. You'll see businesses with Arabic writing on them, all types of businesses. So it's not only not only do they have their religious institutions like their mosque and all that kind of stuff, they have every type of business that you can imagine they own and control in Dearborn. And I think that we need to have similar things like that here in Black communities like Baltimore. And you do have some Black businesses in these communities, but they are spread out. They're not concentrated. Where's the New Africa town? Where's the, a town where we own like all the businesses on the block and stuff like that? You don't see that too often in Black communities, unfortunately. Now, I've seen like small little examples of that. Like, for instance, like you have like for instance, the Nation of Islam, like where they have, a restaurant and, one other business and stuff like that on a smaller scale. But we need to have more of that, in the wider Black community. That's a real issue, because as long as we don't control the economics, I mean, this is something Malcolm X taught us a long time ago, then we don't control our destiny. As long as somebody else is controlling every business in our community, how can we call ourselves free? How can we even pretend to have self-determination, man? And yeah, I'm thinking about like just doing like some videos where I actually go out there and show you all exactly what we're talking about, examples of these communities where they control things and examples where we don't control things. All right, so let me go through your comments. And BB said, shout out to BB, thanks for tuning in. Shout out to Westwood 123X. Yeah, I mean, BB mentioned that Black people don't discriminate where our dollars go and stuff like that, and that's the problem. Like, we give our money to anybody. We buy from people that treat us with disrespect. Like, you had a situation where those brothers were protesting against this one business where this Asian guy punched this Black woman. But yet, when this Asian business offered a sale, you had Black women lined up to go into that business, despite that owner's disrespect of Black women. And I'm sure that other store where the Asian guy choked out the Black woman, I'm sure people are still going to that store buying their hair products and stuff like that. We have to be political with everything, man. Political with how we spend our money. And those examples where these businesses disrespect Black people, show us no respect, those businesses do not deserve our money. Businesses that don't hire Black people don't deserve our money. We'll see these businesses in our neighborhoods where they don't have any Black employees. They only employ their friends and family. Those businesses should not thrive in our community. I don't think that we should just boycott any non-Black business, but a business that has no respect for us, a business that doesn't hire us, those businesses do not deserve our support. This whole situation just speaks, again, to the relationship between the Black community and the Asian community. It's larger than just this individual incident. And I hope, going back to the individual incidents, I hope that this guy is, punished to the full extent of the law, for this heinous act of, poisoning his brother over a long period of time, where his brother's going through all these different problems, where he's passing out, where he's dizzy, where he has pain and all that kind of stuff. And he may have long-term effects. Like in the article, they said he's still having after effects from being exposed to that toxic substance. So I hope this man, is punished to the full extent of the law, man. Yeah, and Westwood pointed it out, like how, these parts of Africa and South Africa, they're open, to all these other people and stuff like that. And that's part of the problem. I don't think that you should be racist and stuff like that. I don't think that people should be racist or anything like that. But at the same time, I think that people need to be vigilant and on point, man, on guard. Just like, the African Americans that let that Dylan Roof into their church. Here you got some strange white guy that's never been to your church before, just out of the blue comes to your church. And he had to have his gun somewhere. I don't know if he brought a backpack or what. You're not going to even search this man or even look at him or question him or anything like that. You're just going to allow him up in your church like that. And then while you're praying, this man literally preyed on you, preyed on Black people, just like a wolf preys on sheep or something like that, or a lion preys on a zebra or something like that. We just got to be on point, man. We can't be slipping, man. We can't be sleeping and stuff, man. And that's literally what happens. And again, this is like a metaphor for that, for the Black community sleeping on, these people who mean us no good, who mean us harm. Yeah, so I want to thank you all for tuning in. You know, I truly appreciate your support. Please rate, comment, subscribe, like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content. I'm going to be back up in a few minutes doing this one last video. And then, as I said before, I will have videos up on my I Declare War channel. I will have some videos up on my second New Possibilities channel. If you're not subscribed to those channels, subscribe today. Peace.